Hey guys, good morning. Are we live? I see a circle going around and around and around. Okay, here we are. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Monday, the best day of the week. Time to start anew, time to start things fresh. I'm streaming for the first time into the Selling Rebellion Facebook group, which we just started. It's a band of entrepreneurs dedicated to scaling their companies without being icky, pushy, or dripping with desperation. So if you want to join us, you can go to facebook.com/groups/the Selling Rebellion. And we are there waiting for you. So we're live in Sales Launch Coders, in the Selling Rebellion, JPM Sales Partners, and YouTube. Good morning, good morning. So today I wanted to talk about how to not come across as desperate in your sales calls. Because, especially now, but any time of year when things are tight, you can come across as desperate. And what happens when you push a customer? They run away, right? And unfortunately, that's what happens when we try to push people into making decisions. Unfortunately, I know a lot of the sales training out there and a lot of the salespeople you've seen, even like as you're a prospect on the other end of a call, can be very pushy and icky, right? Hiding things to the last minute, all of that stuff. So this movement is all about going against that. It's the same methodology that I've taught to my salespeople that we grew $100 million, did $100 million in revenue in 3 years. So it's not some kind of like frou-frou theoretical, heart-centered, mushy approach, although I am very, very spiritual in that regard. But it is tactical and it works when you apply it and it has actual results. So today I wanted to talk about why people come across as you might come across as desperate without even knowing it and how you can avoid doing that. So let's look at what that desperation comes from, first of all. So there's two parts of ourselves. And this is like next level selling, but there's no harm in learning it right away because once you get the basics down and you get the techniques down and everything, then you've got to like take it next level. And this is where sales becomes like where my dad talks about the spirituality of success and the spirituality of sales. This is where this all comes in. So you have two parts of you. You have your ego and you have your higher self. Now, some people call that the soul or the spirit or higher self or, let's see, what other words they're doing. Anyway, those are some great words for it. The other part is the ego. I'm not talking about the ego and the id like in psychology. I'm talking about the ego where the ego is the part of yourself that protects you from danger. So the ego is that animalistic instinct inside of you that says like, don't cross the street, there's a car coming, or that fire is, you touch a fire, it's hot and you never touch the flame again. That's what your ego is there for. And it's a really important part of your survival instincts, right? It's there purely to help us survive and evolve as animals. So we develop these rules that keep us protected. But if you're trying to get to the next level and you're trying to reach your ultimate potential as a human being, some of those things that are protecting you are just going to hold you back from reaching your full potential. So when you were younger, the rule, for instance, of don't talk to strangers because strangers are dangerous was very helpful and it protected you as a child. But that no longer serves you as an adult. And that's going to hold you back from talking to strangers or like at a networking event or talking to someone might need your help or even someone that could help you advance your career. So something that's ingrained in us from just, a young child comes and seeps into our adulthood life. So that's the ego. That's that voice that you can't even necessarily hear, but it's always there guiding you and protecting you. And when it comes to like, let's say you're having a bad week in sales and you're not making any sales and that's going to mean you're not making commission and you're not paying your bills, your ego goes into survival mode. So it tries to solve that problem by surviving. And that might mean you do things that you wouldn't normally do when you were living in abundance and you had like tons of sales calls and you didn't ever have to worry about any one deal closing. You act differently. You do things differently that you wouldn't do if you weren't in that state. So when the ego's in charge, the ego's thinking in terms of survival and lack, right? It's this lack. There's not enough. There's not enough money. There's not enough sales. There's not enough prospects. So if any of those ideas are going through your head, you're in that ego state. Your ego's controlling your thoughts. And the result of that is that you end up doing things in survival mode that aren't necessarily really good long-term strategies. You start acting out of fear instead of out of confidence, instead of out of love and in abundance. So to move out of that position, you've got to move into that other part of you, which is your higher self, your spirit, your soul. It's that other voice that appears when things are totally calm, that other voice that goes like, you got this. Nothing's going to hold you back. You're better than you even know. That voice that is like that voice of calm. I was going to say reason, but it's not really logical. It's that voice of calm that says like, when things are at their worst, that voice comes and says, everything's going to be okay. That's your inner self and that's your higher self. And so that's the place that we need to be when we're talking to customers. When you can get yourself in that place where you're listening to that higher self voice and recognizing the difference of the two. When is my ego speaking and when is my higher self speaking to me? And you can better control how you approach situations. So your higher self, is more open. There's no limitations to the higher self, right? There's no, if you think of like the soul and spirit and energy, like there's no limit to energy. So when it comes to brainstorming ideas, there's no limits. Like the ego would say, oh, here's an idea. Here's why it's not going to work, right? So that's the ego saying like protecting you from making a mistake. But when you're in your higher self, the ideas are limitless and the creativity is limitless. And when you're with a customer, it means you're listening instead of talking, because as you absorb what they're saying, you can come up with the solutions that they need. And you can also intuit what they need to hear in order to buy. It also means that when we get objections, we lean into them because we're not taking the result of the sale personally. We don't need any one sale to survive. So we're living in this abundant place. And when you would think maybe when the ego is in control, you'd maybe lean into objections and be even harder about them. What happens to a lot of people is they actually retreat from objections because they're avoiding conflict. And they see that objection as that a reason they're not going to buy. So they run away from it to protect themselves. They avoid conflict to protect themselves from losing the sale. Or the opposite, they're super pushy and start making the customer feel guilty or, turning questions into, well, I guess this isn't that important to you if you're not going to buy it. Which happens, guys. I'm saying from experience all these things. So you end up leaning into objections because you're willing to put your ego aside and the discomfort that happens when you have that conflict of interest with someone. And then you're able to put that aside and lean in and really help them see a different perspective, because that's what sales is. It's about creating another reality that doesn't exist and showing the person what that other reality could be, influencing them. So in order to do that, though, you have to detach from the outcome. You can't take it personally if someone buys or doesn't buy. So finally, so in this regard, we never lose a sale because you never had it to begin with. So you're counting your chickens before they hatch sort of thing. If you don't do that, and I really recommend even when we do our sales numbers that we don't start counting chickens before they hatch. I hate the, projecting opportunities and closing stuff because it's at least from a salesperson's perspective, because what it does is it puts money in their pocket that is not there. And then you start to hold on to it as if it was yours. And then when you lose it, it hurts. Or if you think you might lose it, it hurts. And you start acting in ways that actually push it away. So do not count your chickens before you hatch. If you got like appointments, like don't start counting your revenue before it's there. There's no sales made. Okay. It is not a sale until the sale's made. So in that regard, you never ever lose a sale. Got it? If you hear yourself feeling like you lost a sale, you didn't lose a sale. It wasn't yours to begin with. So how do you put yourself in that place? Well, the best way, everyone has their own ways to get in a state where they can be of service and put themselves in the higher self instead of serving themselves through their ego. I understand you've got bills to pay. I understand you've got, targets to reach, right? But you've got to put all that aside like way before you talk to the customer, because as soon as you get in front of them, all of whatever's going on inside of you gets thrown onto them and projected onto them through your energy. Whether phone, even if you're sending an email, like you're sending these vibes across. So sometimes subconsciously, as hard as you might try not to do it. So some ways that you can do it, one is like get your energy up and your blood flowing. So I tell my people, like, do 10 jumping jacks before you get on a call. Like start moving around, especially if you're sitting all day. If you're going to someone's office, like pause before you knock on the door and make sure you're in that right state, that you're there to serve, instead of worrying about whether or not you're going to close the sale. Because closing the sale is just a byproduct of helping someone solve their problem. I meditate. So that really helps me like put away all that chatter inside of my head so that I'm not in that space when I'm helping people. It also helps my mind be clear so that I can accept any like pieces of information from my clients where I can help intuit what they need to hear or what they need to do next. And I'm sorry, guys, if I can't see your chats either, because the way Facebook Live is set up, I can't see the chats in the group. That's all I have to say about that. So put yourself in the right state through getting your blood flow up, meditating, putting the focus on helping the customer, and then never projecting your numbers ahead of time. Even if you've got a sales manager that's asking you to do that, let them come talk to me and I'll tell them other ways that they can solve that. You can project outcomes by conversions. You don't have to project them by expected revenue and probability. And this way it doesn't affect your salespeople's mindset. All right, guys, well, have a wonderful week. I will see you next week. I'll be popping in here every Monday at 9 a.m.-ish, depending on how much my kids need me at any particular moment. Have a great week. Bye, guys.